Welcome to Pretty Lies and Alibis. Join us as we seek the truth and travel the long road to justice. What's going on, everybody? It's Wednesday, so that means it's time for another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I am Gigi.
So somebody...
I'm Gigi, by the way.
They didn't know who you were.
Well, yeah,
because I never talked back to you in the beginning.
So I'm Gigi, and Fruit Loop, who everybody knows.
Yeah,
how are you?
I'm laughing because it was like I was a ventriloquist. I was two different people. No, I'm just kidding. I'm good, actually.
Awesome.
So before I forget, if you guys hear like this annoying beeping in the background, I'm testing out a continuous glucose monitor for a few weeks. So if it beeps, I'm sorry. So you just know what it is.
Yep. We got a beeper.
Yeah, it's going to beep.
So we want to make everybody aware that the biological family of Victoria Rose, the case we're covering here in Greenville, where the 3-year-old was beaten to death by her foster parents, they have had somebody this week try to set up a GoFundMe, and it's not the family. As of right now, the family has no fundraising things out there at all. So if you happen to see one, let us know, and we can tell the family what we see. So we just want to make sure that good people don't get scammed, because unfortunately, when things like this happen, the scammers pounce.
What the world? Like, who does that?
That's
horrible.
I would be so afraid the karma bus would just smack me right in the face.
The Lord ain't gonna bless that, I'm telling you.
No. You're gonna get smited.
No. So some people are worried that Letitia Stalk is going to try to escape like Ted Bundy. I've read those. It's been kind of comical. Ted Bundy jumped out a library window or something?
You know, I am embarrassed to say I am not super up on Ted Bundy. I know his crimes, but I don't know much about him.
Yeah, so Ted Bundy represented himself, but he had a law degree, so obviously we know she doesn't, but they were comparing her with Ted Bundy, and he escaped out a library window. But I really think there's a possibility she's going to have one of these shock vests on.
Oh, boy.
I really don't think they're going to let her just walk freely.
No.
And that's what people's worried about. She's just going to like walk out. She'll be probably, I would say, handcuffed, because I think right now the order is whenever she's moved, like she is like she's got the leg chains, the waist chains that are then hooked to the handcuffs. So I would imagine right before she comes in, that would be removed. But I bet you she'll have the vest on.
I would put her in the Hannibal Lecter chair.
For real, let her sit there.
With the little mask on. You know, I would give anything to be in charge of that button.
I know, right?
I would give it a little half press on accident.
I know.
Just be like, sorry about that. See her kind of have a moment.
Yeah. So we're just covering a couple of quick things. So, on YouTube, we had Sub Rosa reached out and made a point about the suppressor for the Wagner case. And he did say, he gave us some great information, and we thank you for that, that suppressors require a $200 tax stamp and a 6 to 18 month wait.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know that either. And it sounds like they made their own. Mm-hmm. So, they were saying that it's a big time federal felony weapons charge to do that. And also, if there were marks left from the suppressor, it would be on the bullet, not the casing, not the shell casing.
Yeah.
So thanks for giving us that information.
Yes. Thank you, Sub Rosa. We appreciate that.
Yeah. You have something new you've been watching.
Yeah. So I started the Night Stalker series on Netflix, and it is intriguing and it is frightening. And if you have a really weak stomach for crime scenes, I don't recommend it, because they show crime scene photos. Sometimes they blur out the faces and stuff, but
dude, I don't even like CSI or any of those shows where they show the autopsies. Like, that's not me.
It don't bother me. I mean, years
you
ago.
removed eyeballs. Come on.
I did. So I had the weirdest job, you guys. I used to do medical field right out of high school, went to college, got a surge tech degree and did that. But so my oddest job was I worked for the eye bank here in South Carolina. So I covered all of the upstate. And when somebody passed away and they were a donor, I would go and either remove the cornea for transplant, or there's a long list of reasons you can't donate. I'm sure they've changed over the years, but even back then it was like if you had a tattoo, you couldn't. So if they took it for science, I would take the entire globe out.
Gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to go in the morgue sometimes at like 3 a.m. Yeah, the cooler door closes behind me, find my donor,
Nope.
take them in a room, do a full body exam. And then it wasn't, I mean, I always, tried to be respectful because that's somebody's loved one. It could get a little eerie down there sometimes, but I got to see a lot of stuff. I got to watch a lot of autopsies being performed, a lot of homicide autopsies. And man, yeah, it's just a different world down in the morgue.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't want to see none of that.
I just put on Pink Floyd and just found a groove and did my thing and got out. It paid really well, even probably 15 years ago. It paid really well. And I know why, because then you would have to go back to this lab in the middle of nowhere that was kind of dark and do a cell count on the eyes. And like you would have to put everything where it should go. So that creeped me out, being in that building alone more than being in the morgue did.
I'm going to tell you, being in the basement of the hospital is really weird because like you're supposed to have an escort.
Yeah.
Like when I used to have to go there and serve papers, you had to get an escort down to the basement.
Who are you serving in the basement in the morgue?
Oh, it'd be like finance or somebody probably or something. I don't even remember. But so you had to get a police escort to the basement.
Yeah.
Well, then like you're taking your life in your own hands because they got these robots that carry all this stuff. Like, it's like a train, but it's like a robot.
Yeah.
And they'll just like fly through the door and like knock you over or something. So it's really weird down there. But yep, same level. So we do have some court dates.
Yeah.
So Letitia Stalk, she has a status conference March 5th, which is coming up, 2 days?
Yeah, we're going to cover that live. We'll cover that live.
Yeah, 8:30 in the morning. And then her preliminary hearing is March 11th and 12th at 8:30 in the morning.
That's going to be so good.
And then Chad Daybell and Lori Vallow. Motion to compel is March 8th, and that's at 3:30 in the afternoon. And that's Mountain Standard Time, I think. Yeah,
I think I told one of our listeners, Mikhail, the wrong day. Sorry, Mikhail. It looks like you will get to see the hearing after all. I think I told her it was Friday.
It's okay.
I think I told all of Twitter it was Friday. Sorry about that, guys.
It's March 8th. So, and then they have a motion to dismiss on March 22nd at 9 a.m. And then, of course, you got the pretrial conference for them June 2nd at 10 a.m. And then the jury trial supposedly is July 12th at 9 a.m.
Well, the news that I tweeted out for this week is that they have resumed jury trials in Idaho, including grand juries. So we know from that Dr. Oz interview, Nate from East Idaho News said that the delay could be COVID related and grand juries were not allowed to meet. So I think maybe we'll see charges sooner than later. And I'm going to tell you why. I don't know if this is a thing, but this is in my brain, makes sense. So it probably isn't right. It seems to me if they're going to drop these huge murder charges or conspiracy to commit murder or whatever they're going to do, I would feel like they would need to give the other side adequate. So that, in other words, so that Lori and Chad can't say, well, you guys knew you were going to drop these charges and my lawyers have prepared until June for my trial. I don't know how that goes, but I sort of feel like maybe we get charges sooner than later now, but we said that like a year ago. So
I know.
Who knows?
Like I'm just waiting on that alert.
Yeah, I have East Idaho alerts on my phone and I know everything about East Idaho, what goes on, what new restaurants are coming to town, when schools are closed for weather. Yeah, I'm just waiting. So probably when the alert comes for big charges, like I'll miss it.
Oh yeah, because you'll be like, oh,
it's East Idaho again.
Yeah,
we'll see if there's an elk herd on the road.
Yep.
I want to go there so bad though.
Oh, I do too.
Just on a side note, it looks so pretty.
It does look pretty.
I want to go to Yellowstone.
Yep, I'm in.
All right, let's go.
I'm game. So before we jump into the Wagners, we were going to give an update on the Orrin and Orson West case. So you tweeted this out that Bakersfield Police Department has taken over the lead investigation in this case.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a shock, I guess.
I think it's very telling.
I totally agree.
I think that to me, it kind of just makes you think that those kids never were in California City.
Yeah. And they said, due to the facts, and this is what the BPD released Monday, due to the facts now known to investigators and the circumstances surrounding the disappearance, the city of Bakersfield is a historical nexus to the children. So they released that Monday. California City and FBI will continue to have active roles in the investigation.
Yeah.
And then the reporter did ask, and I forget his name, a young guy. He reminded me of Justin Lum. But he asked, why? And of course, the detective said, I can't tell you. And I thought this was interesting. He couldn't tell him because it's not just the public that are watching, but the people who are involved in this are watching.
Yeah.
So that kind of gives you a little information of what's going on, I think.
Yeah, I think you could read between the lines and say that they're making some progress, at least in eliminating where they might be.
Yeah.
Which is a big deal. And can we just say, too, we love Justin.
Oh, yeah, Justin's awesome.
Yeah, he's been on this case from the beginning, and
well, he's on the Daybell case, not this one.
Right, the Daybell. I'm sorry. Yeah, I just assume everybody knows who Justin Lum is because we all get our information, partially from him and his tweets, and he's on top of everything. But anyway, so we're going to jump back into the Wagner family, the Rhoden murders.
Hey, hold on. You didn't let me say. I had one more thing to say.
I'm so sorry.
Come on now. So they did say in the West case that they've executed more than 20 search warrants in this case.
Wow. That's a lot.
It is a lot. It wasn't all at once, but it's like been, one here, a couple here, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I thought that's big.
Yeah, I think they're working on it. For us trial watchers, it's so frustrating when it seems like things have gone cold or stalled. And then all of a sudden, for the most part, we find that they've made progress.
Yeah.
So hopefully we get updates on that too. And I'm, these boys haven't been seen in so long, but that little party you just holds out a little bit of hope that somebody has them.
Yeah. And it's not unusual for different police department to take over a case.
Right.
If an investigation leads and they say, oh, then it happened in this area, this state, whatever, then that department's going to take that back over. So they transfer it. So that's not out of the ordinary. I'm telling you, BPD is still asking anyone who had contact with the boys in the past year,
wow,
regardless of context, to contact the department through, they have a secret witness hotline. That number is 661-322-4040. And they said, that's anybody who's had contact with the boys.
Well, it leads me to believe that maybe they hadn't been seen by any medical professionals or anything in quite a while.
The thing I can't grasp is they won't, and they were asked this in a couple of interviews, will the police release updated photos? And they said, no, they don't, like their own Jacqueline and Trezelle's phone. I just can't understand why you wouldn't release a new photo.
Yeah, that's really weird, but...
Do they have an updated photo?
I think I remember the sheriff saying they did.
But, the ones they always show are the other ones. I'm saying, does Trezelle and Jacqueline, do they have an updated photo?
I don't know.
I don't know either. I just can't... It's something that's going to help your kid be found. Yeah. I would be releasing school pictures from K-5 to 12th grade. Like,
right, yeah.
Yeah. So
it's weird. I don't know. You just kind of hope that in the background they're working.
Yeah.
Trying to find these boys.
So that's your update. Now we're moving to the Wagners, which you've been
Mother may I.
In a cave all alone in the dark, combing through stuff.
Oh, combing through evidence lists, watching all these hearings from like almost 3 years.
Dude.
And trying to be, everything to everybody else in this house. And but it's okay. I mean, I love doing this kind of stuff. But it's given me a lot of really good insight into these people.
Okay, yeah, I laugh because I'll get a text and it'll be just like 5 or 6 words. Did you know this? Or look at this.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Well, I can't, like, nobody here that lives in this house cares. I can talk to the cat, but like cats are jerks. I'm going to tell you, I love this cat, but like I had to go break up a cat fight at 12:30 in the morning.
This story is great.
Oh my gosh. So the cat, we haven't seen him in like an hour. My daughter thought he was in the room he normally stays in. And, or she thought he was in my room and left the door open. So I come out like it's 12:30 to get some water, and I'm like, door's open. Where's the cat? She's like, in your room. And I'm, no, that's not right. So we go outside, and as soon as we step out, we hear like, it's just like
cat fights are brutal, dude.
Oh my gosh! So it's in my neighbor's yard. And so I walk over, and it's 2 black cats. They look just alike. Well, Sherlock, my cat, he's like a tuxedo is what they call it. It's like a white patch right on his throat. So they're like puffy. I mean, they look like pufferfish because they're so mad.
Their tails are big.
And so I have this really bright, like police grade LED flashlight. If somebody breaks in my house, I'm going for the retinas. Like it'll paralyze
blind them.
So I grab the cat. And in the middle of it, they're screaming like 2 women.
You're guessing at this point.
Yeah,
though.
I was like, well, it's 50-50. I'm going to grab my cat. So I grab the cat by like the nape of the neck. And this cat like puts his claws all in my arm because it's scared. It's not like it's scratching to get away. It's like, oh my gosh. So I shine the light right on the cat. The cat's like trying not to look in the light. And I yell at my daughter, does he have the white patch? All the while, I've got like all these claws in my arm. So finally,
meanwhile, you're standing in your neighbor's front yard
at 12:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to be quiet, and I have to drop the cat because it's just tearing me to shreds, right? So then it's stuck under the car. So here we are creeping around this car, crouched down with this bright flashlight. Well, finally their ring cam goes off and they pop out the window or the door, and they're like, are you guys good? And we say, yeah, we're good. The cat's been in a fight. So finally we get the cat. I bring him in. He's been sprayed by the other cat. So I'm giving the cat a bath at like 1 a.m, during which he claws me some more.
Classic.
Sorry about my cat story, y'all. It's just,
you had to throw that in there.
If I was afraid if I drank water, I'd sprout leaks in my arm.
You missed the part of when you were circling the car with the flashlight that somebody drove by.
Oh yeah, and they were like slowing down, thinking we were burglars or something because they started creeping, and I just like pop up and wave, and I thought either we're gonna get shot or the cops are gonna come. But anyway, so
that's
now
classic.
I'm just like, if you guys let him out, he can stay out.
Yeah,
I ain't doing this again. So back to the Wagners. We've done 2 episodes on this, and I apologize to the YouTube listeners because I'm not able to figure out how to put a picture up of the drop down. So we'll just say at the beginning, like we always do, go ahead and go Google or go to one of our Twitter or Facebook pages and pull up the visual that shows you who's who. So just quick recap: the Rhodens, a family of 8, and Hannah Gilley were gunned down in one night by who we suspect are the Wagners, a family of 4, and it centered over custody. So the last episode, we got to the point to where I believe they were arrested. Or no. They moved to Alaska.
Yep.
They moved to Alaska in May of 2017. Now, the murders took place in April of 2016. So it's a little over a year since the murders, and they're not even really suspects at this point. So they're looking at them, but they're not quite there yet. So they moved to Alaska, take the 2 kids that one is George's son from a previous marriage, and then obviously Sophia, which is Jake and Hannah Rhoden's daughter. So we found out when they were in Alaska, Jake got married.
Yeah, I was shocked on that one.
I was really shocked.
Yep.
Apparently he met her at church, and when they moved back and got arrested, she wanted out of the marriage. So
don't blame her.
So what did she do?
I think, didn't she start a
GoFundMe?
Yes, GoFundMe on social media.
Yeah. And it just essentially said, like, not word for word, but, you know, I married into the wrong family. He's been arrested for murder. I want a divorce. Yeah. And I think she did get some money, but apparently some lawyer saw what was going on and helped her get that divorce. So we didn't know that until recently.
Nope.
So they moved back to Alaska a year later. So in the spring of 2018, they were coming back to Ohio.
Yeah, and they got arrested coming back, right?
No, they were home for a while.
I'm just saying though, after they came back.
Right, like, after they moved back from Alaska, they got back, I think maybe May or something like that, and they weren't arrested till November.
Yeah.
So there was still a little bit of stuff. But I watched George Wagner's bond hearing, which was August 31st of last year. So this is a really recent hearing. And the reason that I focused on this one is because it was kind of the first time that we got a glimpse at some of the ballistic evidence and other things that they have on the Wagners. But in this hearing, there was a lot shared. So we're going to kind of go down, because now we all know that the Wagners were all arrested and charged with the murders of the Rhodens. Can I just say, those indictment hearings were so long.
Well, if you look at their charges, it's like $500 million.
Yeah.
It's like
everything but the kitchen sink charge.
Yeah.
So anyway, so George wanted this hearing for a reasonable bond because, according to his attorney, they really didn't have a whole lot on George tying him to the murders. And what did I tell you earlier, Fruit Loop?
Yeah, that there is a lack of evidence.
There really is.
That doesn't point, like, I mean, I listened to some of what you were listening to, and they were making points of, okay, who did you say purchased that? What card was that purchased? Like, and it was all pointing to Jake. Yeah. Like everything they said. So,
and we'll get specifically into that stuff down this list. So, the state didn't call any witnesses at this hearing. They had special agent, I believe it's Scheider. He testified. He's been on this case, I think, pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing I learned, if you remember, we talked about how law enforcement bugged George Wagner's phone for, I believe it was a month. They had listened to his calls, trying to see, I guess, if they could catch him in anything. And I thought it was 8,000 calls over the period of a month, but the special agent said it was 8,000 calls that were of interest to this case. So they had way more phone calls, but obviously more. So what evidence did they talk about during this hearing?
So evidence he lists, ballistic, shoe impressions, forged documents, recorded. Oh, what does that say?
Recorded conversations.
Oh,
sorry. I shorthanded, my bad.
Yeah. Recorded conversations, text messages.
Yeah. So they had just, I almost feel like when I say that they didn't have a lot on George, a lot of times they will, in these kind of hearings, they will use the bare minimum that they need to justify not giving him bail while they're holding back the big guns.
Yep.
So,
and we see that in all these cases we're covering. It's the same thing in all of them.
Right. So, but I will say, I think by the end of this episode, you might see why I felt the way I did. Yeah. There just wasn't a lot tying him to the scene, but we're going to get into it now.
Yep. So there were 3 calibers of firearms, a 22 caliber long rifle, a 40 caliber gun, a 30 caliber gun. They uncovered information that George was fond of Glocks and was known as a Glock man. His uncle told authorities, that's what his uncle told authorities. He was in possession of a 30 caliber rifle that is a potential contributor at one of the murder scenes.
Yeah. So as far as the Glock goes, they found 40 caliber rounds that were fired from a Glock. And then Jake had a list of firearms on his phone, and he literally had it listed by person. And so that was, the Glock obviously was George's.
Okay, so you're saying like the guns and it had Jake out beside it, or George, or Billy. Like, it had that listed?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the family. So he even had one listed for Sophia, which was, I don't have it right here. I think it was like a 22 something.
Okay.
So he just had, I guess, whatever guns each person in that family owned in a list with their name.
Oh, wow. Merry Christmas to you, Mr. Officer.
Right, yeah.
Mr. Detective.
Yeah. So they found some 22 caliber shell casings that matched the shell casings at the crime scene on the property that was owned by George and Jake. So they were able to say that shell casings that were found at the crime scenes match shell casings that were found on their property. And it came from the same firearm, essentially. They were able to tell that the casings were fired from the same gun.
Gotcha. And they own this property together, right?
Right. One point that he made in this hearing was, since birth, these boys have never lived alone. They've always lived together. Just how they never separated as a family.
Yeah.
Everything, like finances were mingled. They used each other's credit cards.
Look, I ain't gonna lie. When my brother moved out, I was like cutting cartwheels.
Yeah, my brother got married and moved out too.
Yeah. I was ready.
I remember trying to convince my parents to knock the wall down between our rooms to give me
to make it a bigger room. Yeah. I did the same thing.
They didn't listen.
No.
Gosh.
Nope.
They ended up and stored all their Christmas stuff in there.
There you go. Yeah. So yeah, that's I don't know. So they didn't find the Glock gun at all?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Just the shell casings.
Gotcha.
So they were able to find some shoe prints and blood, and they were able to get those prints off from...
Shoe prints are telling.
They're very telling. That's how, one of the ways that they were able to identify the Night Stalker. Not identify him, but he had a very specific pair of Avia shoes, and literally only one was shipped to Los Angeles.
Wow.
And it was his size. So they found these shoe impressions outside of every window or near every crime scene. And so shoes can get you in trouble.
Dude, just don't commit a crime.
Exactly.
You're going to get caught.
You know what's scary about the Night Stalker? And I didn't get to say this. He did not care who he hurt or killed. Anywhere from children, where he sexually assaulted children, up to man, woman. He got in for the most part in unlocked windows. So last night,
I'm double checking.
1 o'clock in the morning, I'm going and pushing up all my windows. Okay, back to the Wagner. Sorry.
Yeah. They were able to determine that the shoes were sold at Walmart. They were sizes 10.5 and 11s. George was asked in an interview his shoe size. They checked Walmart's within a 50-mile radius.
Yeah, and it's really crazy how they do that. So they asked all the Walmarts within a 50-mile radius to pull receipts or footage and all that stuff from anybody who had bought shoes in like 2016. And so they were able to kind of narrow it down that, okay, it was Angela that bought it because they have her on. Look, Walmart is like, they were saying on a show I was watching, don't ever like plan to commit a crime and go shopping at Walmart. They have some of the most sophisticated surveillance systems.
Dude, they have them on the aisles. Like, I wave to them all the time.
Do you? I didn't know they had them on the aisles.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like there's like a screen. Like in some of the aisles, there's like a screen. I think it's in some of them where it's like high priced, more expensive stuff. But they have like a little monitor and a screen, and they watch you.
I just thought it was like a display that wasn't working.
Look, I knew a guy who worked for security in Walmart. Like he was, they call it, I don't even know what they call it, but loss prevention something or another.
Oh, yeah.
And, dude, it's brutal. Like they get a little rough with you when you get rowdy in Walmart, from what he said.
Didn't you get that one security guard that's like a WWE enthusiast,
and
he like jumps off the little carrier and power drives?
Yeah, like Mall Cop or something. Yeah. So when asked about fingerprint evidence, the guy on the stand said they have a palm print evidence, but no fingerprint evidence.
No, there were no fingerprints found of the Wagners in any of the properties, and Additionally, the defense attorney made clear that he was able to get the agent to admit that they found no DNA evidence of George's either.
So with the fingerprint deal, they found a photograph of Jake holding what they suspect to be the murder weapon, a 1911 pistol that used 22 bullets. How do you get a palm print and no fingerprints?
I don't know. It makes me kind of think that if they were wearing gloves at some point, maybe the glove slipped off his hand and got part of his palm.
That's a good point.
I don't know. But they were able to see the ridges on the photograph of Jake holding this Glock. And they were able to send that photograph to the crime lab. And they were able to make a comparison to the partial palm print found at the scene. And it came back to Jake.
Dude, that's some Abby Shuto NCIS detective work right there.
Exactly.
Golly.
Yeah, but these people are smart.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so they have that. But other than that, there's no DNA evidence as far as what he testified to at any of the crime scenes.
Dude, did they walk in bubble wrap?
I don't know, but
I mean, during a struggle or something, normally there's a hair fiber, there's something.
You would think. It makes you wonder if they were wearing, like, you don't know. I mean, I'm sure that the clothes they wore, they put on before they, after they left the house. I mean,
hazmat suit.
I will say this. These people are evil to the core, but if you want to look at it from a planning standpoint, they weren't arrested for 2 years and they moved 4,000 miles away for a year of that time. They planned the thing well enough.
Methodical,
to get 2 years. I mean, it's not really often that you're waiting that long to charge somebody.
Yeah.
I really do think the cartel and the fact that the whole family was killed really threw off investigators. I really do.
I wonder if they were calling, making tips, like to the anonymous line,
You don't know with these people. I'm telling you, it seems like they kind of mostly thought of everything. Unfortunately, the one thing that got them arrested was that suppressor they found in the well on Jake and George's property, and we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Mistakes were made, but I think if they hadn't have found that suppressor, I'm not sure that we would have arrest, at this point.
Yeah. So they talked about the forged custody document with George that he used to get custody of his son with his ex-wife. The computer that was used to search for and print the fake custody documents was seized at the Montana border.
Yeah. And so they were able, and I think we touched on this last episode, but they were able to determine that the custody papers were printed in April of 2016, but they were signed in 2014 and 2015 for each of the women, the mothers of the kids. And it was like a declaration of custody, which said that if something happened to Hannah or Tabitha, which is George's ex-wife, that Jake and George would get custody of their children. And then I believe there was an additional document that said that if something happened to George and Jake, that Angela would get the kids.
Yep, I remember talking about that.
So they had a handwriting expert look at the signatures, and they concluded that it was not Hannah's signature on it. And Rita, which is Angela's mother, if you remember, she was arrested for this, for forgery. She says that it's not her signature on that paper and that Angela had asked her to lie and say it was.
Yeah, and they did get handwriting specialists to confirm that as well.
Right.
Dude, how you going to throw your mom under the bus?
I think if you kill a family of 8 or you plan, you just don't care. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's one of those things where the custody documents pales in comparison to the rest of the charges. So if I were Angela Wagner, I would not implicate my mom with everything hanging over my head.
No. And then call your mom on the phone and tell her not to testify.
Yeah. Well,
sheesh.
Most criminals are dumb. And so Jake was avoiding investigators. He didn't want to meet with them. And
wonder why.
Yeah. Go figure.
Yeah.
But they were at the residence at one point trying to make contact with Jake, and his brother George was there as well. So George sends a message to his dad, Billy, and tells him they've got company, don't come home. So the investigator said, obviously, that implicates that maybe there's a reason Billy wouldn't want to come home. The investigator said, if I'm not guilty, if I haven't done anything wrong, why am I going to tell somebody not to come home.
Exactly.
But still, the defense attorney really just pointed out all this stuff, which is that it's not a crime. I mean, he tells his dad, we've got company, don't come home.
It's still what it's implying. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, don't get me wrong. These people are guilty as sin. Yeah. But you have to look at this from a defense attorney standpoint and what during trial this defense attorney is going to latch onto and run with.
Yeah.
He's got to get this guy out from a possible death penalty sentence.
So you're already kind of seeing where he's going with it, though.
Right, which is the evidence is super weak against George, and all this stuff is coincidental, and it doesn't prove he was in those trailers the night that everybody was murdered. And in addition, maybe he was smart enough and left his phone at home, but his phone was at his residence the night of the murders. But you can leave your phone at home. Come on, you're not going to tell me these guys didn't plan this big massacre and left George out of it.
They're a little smarter than Alex Cox. I'm just saying.
That's not saying much.
I know, right?
So
the detective is asked about the recordings from George, and he mentions that George made incriminating statements in police interviews.
He didn't really elaborate too much. I feel like that's just going to be stuff that we learn at trial.
I think they're just going to like dump the whole boatload of information, and we're going to be like, oh no, okay, never mind.
You know, DeWine, who was the attorney general at the time, I think was he the attorney general, or he was like he made a comment that essentially he said it's going to blow our minds what comes out at trial. So I take somebody like that says this is going to blow your mind, and I trust him.
Yeah, he knows everything. So
right. So whatever they put out at this hearing for George is just the bare minimum. Do I think they've got more on him? Of course. Okay.
Yeah. Hey, give it a shout out to Montana Border Patrol.
Oh, they were on it.
Like
They called and let authorities know when the Wagners went into Canada, and then when they were returning and came through that Montana border station or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
They
dude, those things are scary.
Oh, I know. I've been to the one in Tijuana to California. Ooh.
Yeah, I'm not joking. Like I hadn't done anything wrong, and they got the dogs out there, and they're sniffing and searching, and
oh yeah,
I would not, if I was a criminal, I would not cross a border anywhere. Them people, they don't play.
Oh yeah, how about when I came back one time, I thought I had lost my driver's like my proof that I was a citizen at this little restaurant we went to, but luckily it had fallen out. You know how I used to put my ID in my back pocket and then I would always lose it?
Yep.
So it was one of those times, but it had actually fallen out in the car. But it was like 10 minutes of, oh my gosh, I'm going to end up in a jail in Tijuana.
No, but yours doesn't beat mine. Mine was, my phone told me I'd entered Mexico, and I don't have a passport.
Oh no.
Yeah, so my phone tells me I entered Mexico, so I'm thinking I'm in Mexico. And all I could think of was that Marine who got arrested that time and spent 8 months in a Mexican prison.
I cannot see you in any prison.
And I was by myself.
Oh, no.
Then I Border Patrol's everywhere. Well, I see this helicopter, and I'm like, this is really cool. So I take a picture of the helicopter, and I'm like, you moron. They just saw me take it. So then a cop stops me in the middle of the road, and I'm like, this is it. I'm going to jail. And it was just they were carrying a big, huge truck, the big dump trucks, like they're 580s, 550s, something like that. And it took up the whole road, so I had to move. So I was scared to death. I got out of there, dude.
I'd have come bailed you out.
Yeah, I was driving to the San Antonio is where I was driving. So yeah, Highway 9 or something. It's supposed to be on 10, but it routed me to 9. Yeah,
and almost
Sprint.
Mexico.
I got rid of Sprint later. They said I was in Mexico.
Sprint's gonna put you in the Mexican pokey.
Oh yeah, nope. Okay, sorry guys. Our ADD is bad tonight. We're jumping all over the place.
Yeah, sorry about
that. But so the investigator. So they questioned George at the Montana border. So the investigator said George stated there was no child custody issue, no dispute between the Wagners and the Rhodens.
He said that was. That was very suspicious to him because obviously at that point they knew there was probably a custody issue.
Yeah.
And he just thought that was, he made it sound like that was an implication of his guilt, is how the investigator presented it to the court. But
dude, I'm going to tell you, the cops know what questions to ask.
Oh yeah.
like, if you have nothing to hide and you haven't done anything wrong, like, you're fine. But the cops get you to, like, when they know what questions to ask you, and then they get, like, then you're like, oh, wait, I've lied, so now I got to make this up. And, I mean, they're smart. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So regarding the Walmart shoes that Angela bought, George and Jake both denied they'd ever seen the shoes, but Angela told special agents that she threw them away the same day because the boys didn't like them.
Yeah.
And the shoes were never found. So, go figure.
They look more like, the camo boot wearing guys. I don't know why you would buy them Walmart shoes. Oh, You
good over there?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm just saying. I can't see them wearing Velcro Walmart shoes.
I think it's kind of smart because you don't want your shoelaces to come untied when you're in the middle of multiple murders. And also, they were able to determine that the tread on those shoes, the shoe print that it left, that they were brand new. So they knew they were super new. And then, of course, they find out she bought them, a week. But she bought those shoes the day Hannah Rhoden had her baby shower for her new baby.
Crazy.
Yep.
Crazy. So we talked about on the night of the murders, George's phone was at home. So no GPS or cell evidence against him. I mean, that's easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So well, I just feel like there's got to be just some aces up their sleeves. So essentially, the agent mentioned a couple of things that were said in the recordings that was incriminating, but the defense attorney said out of 8,000 questionable topics, essentially, you find one thing that he said out of all that. And the point he was making is it's not even relevant. It doesn't prove that he was part of the murders.
Yeah.
So that's why I got nervous, because when you sit there and you watch a defense attorney and he's like, so that was Jake, not George. That was Jake, not George. You can't prove anything. His phone was at home the night. And I'm sitting here thinking the dude's going to get off.
Yeah.
The murderer's going to walk free.
Yep.
And it won't go that way, I'm sure. But, it makes you nervous.
Yeah.
Casey Anthony got off. O.J. Simpson got off.
Yeah. I think for me, he's been in there for what, going on 2.5 years?
Let's see.
They were arrested in 18, right?
Yeah, so it's like 2.5 because it was late 2018.
Yep. So something that they've seen has kept him in there.
And I think this went to a grand jury, so they hear and see evidence that we don't. So they were able to bring all the same charges against George that they brought against Jake and Angela and Billy. So
I would love to sit on a grand jury.
I would too.
Like, I want to hear all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so we know in May of 2017, the Wagners fled to Alaska. We talked about that.
Yep.
They had contact with the Wagners up until then.
Up until they left for Alaska, investigators had been in kind of loose contact. I think at that point they had been interviewed.
Yeah.
A couple of times.
So, and then we know they came back late spring of 2018 to Ohio. I was talking to somebody about this case, and they were like, morons, why'd they come back?
Yeah.
But I mean, I think they would have got them either way.
Oh, yeah.
Because they were watching them. They had them under surveillance.
Right. So we found out that the Wagners were trying to buy property in Missouri.
Wow.
And they were not successful. And so the special agent that was testifying said that the Wagners were attempting mortgage fraud in obtaining the loans. And when that failed, they moved back to Ohio. So they were just wanting to get away from Ohio, period.
Yeah. I mean, all this points to you did something wrong. Like,
oh, yeah.
I mean,
of course.
Yeah. Mm-mm.
So the special agent sent a photo of the suspected murder weapon with a suppressor to George. And then George said to his family, which they heard on wiretap, this is a family emergency. So,
so he basically called a family meeting.
Well, yeah. Because he had also made one of the statements, the one statement, I remember it now, that he made that was kind of incriminating was he said, well, if they have the suppressor, they have the gun.
Yep.
Was one thing that they heard him say over the wiretap. So that kind of made the Wagners sort of go into a little flurry of activity. They were calling each other, wondering if the authorities had the weapon or not.
Ooh.
So I think that's pretty big to have that.
Why would you be worried if you didn't use a weapon?
Right.
Why would you be worried about the weapon?
Yep.
Can I just say, I was thinking about this the other day. Our whole system is just crazy.
It is so crazy.
So we, and I know we're, you have the, you're innocent until proven guilty. But it's crazy that we have people who commit crimes. We have 10 million things of evidence that says they commit a crime, but yet they get to possibly get away with it.
Yeah.
Like it's just crazy that we allow murderers and whoever else and their mamas, like, even, oh, you killed somebody? Oh, it's okay, but you can get off on a technicality. Like,
well, I mean, look at Casey Anthony. The jury said that they just couldn't say without a doubt that she killed the kid, and they overcharged the case. So they said with what they were presented with, they couldn't find her guilty of.
yeah, and that's why I'm okay with like Rob Wood taking his time.
Yeah,
because I don't want to mess up.
It doesn't matter. Death penalty, life in prison. I mean, it's just, don't muddy the waters. It's like with Casey Anthony, they overcharged the case and the jury couldn't convict her. I would much rather see people get life in prison than, because death penalty cases are just, you have to be super careful with them. That's literally, execution possibly.
Yeah.
So for me, I'm cool with life in prison and whatever.
Wow. Okay, so the special agent says overall they have approximately 100 days of recordings of George.
Oh, so it's more than a month. My bad.
Yeah, 100 days. Wow. The defense asked, over the 100 days, how many times did they catch George talking about the murders? And the agent says George didn't confess, but he made incriminating statements about their activities.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about the gun and the suppressor, I mean, come on.
Yeah. And one other thing that the special agent mentioned as far as why George, as if 8 people dead wasn't enough to warrant not having a bail set, he was overheard. They had an informant come to them who said they were at the Flying W Farms, which is Grandma Frederica Wagner. Ooh, I don't know why I got tongue tied on that one. Where the family was talking about wishing the special agent that was testifying harm, that he would smash his face in, he would make DeWine and Sheriff Reeder pay. And the agent said that just shows very violent tendencies with George. And but there were no statements made like that they heard on recordings.
Wow.
And so let's see, where are we at?
When asked, in addition to the family emergency statement, George says that was self-incriminating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course, it's a family emergency. Otherwise, a normal person would say, "Why did you just send me a picture of a gun?"
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I don't like, our family emergencies are totally different.
Right. Yeah.
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 Yeah. No, we're out of mac and cheese.
Right.
Like,
Grammy's got a last minute haircut appointment.
Exactly.
That kind. I'm thankful for those kind of minor family emergencies.
Yeah.
It could be much worse.
Mine's not. Oh no, they know we killed 8 people. Yeah.
Yeah. So when the prosecution cross-examines the special agent, George was heard telling Jake he should have gotten rid of his phone because that's where they found the list of the guns.
Wow.
And George makes a comment to Jake that Jake is always getting them in trouble over a woman.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. Like, people just forget there's so many apps that track your whereabouts. There's so many things.
You're never not on camera unless you're out in the sticks.
Like media, I mean, not media, but technology is just so advanced now. Like, you can't do anything. Mm-mm. I mean, on Facebook, we've been looking at campers, right? And I'm saying we have drove to a camper place and looked. Could I tell you how many campers have come up on my Facebook just this week?
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they listen and they know everything. You test it out. Like we'll talk about something like I don't know, sun-kissed oranges, and you watch tomorrow. You'll have a ad on Facebook for buying oranges or something.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yep. So.
Yeah. So the one thing that the Wagners did say was that they were suspicious they were being wiretapped and that they wanted to wait till they were home to discuss things. And they also were suspicious that the 18-wheeler that Jake and George drove on long-haul trips was bugged as well. So, and then we said there were no other fingerprints other than the victims at the crime scenes.
Yeah.
And when did he say that these preparations actually started? We had heard
February,
but
2016.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
It just shows you the mind of people.
I mean, honestly, you think about it. Did they think that they're going to kill a family of 8 and then they're just going to live happily ever after?
Yeah.
It's just not how it goes these days. I mean,
no.
You know, it's rare that you commit a murder and just get away with it for decades or ever.
Any kind of crime.
Yeah.
Like there is always going to be something.
I mean, like I said, they could have turned in the grow operation and gotten custody of her the right way. This was personal.
Yeah.
They didn't want these people to exist.
No. Nope. So the prosecution asked if there's any chance a lone Wagner would separate from the group and commit a crime alone, and he says no.
Yeah, and it just based on what we know about their family dynamics, it seems like they did everything in tandem.
Yeah. And I think there's been some other statements from other people saying that they live with the Wagner for a while and they make all their decisions together.
Yeah, it was a woman. I think maybe he was referring to George's ex-wife Tabitha, because she did live with them for a while.
Dude, that ain't healthy.
I'm sorry. Like, I'm not going to live with my parents with my husband.
Yeah, but you can't be an adult, make your own decisions.
No.
I'm telling you, that's more like a mob family than that's like, Uncle Cleto. I don't know. What's a mob name?
I didn't know Cleto. It's like Tony Soprano.
There you go. I was getting an O in there.
Cletus.
That's the southern. That's like the southern mob
That's
name.
That's like the Pickens County Mafia or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like the hillbilly mafia.
Yeah, hillbilly mafia.
Tony Soprano, like
Cletus,
the Godfather.
Yeah,
making an offer I can't refuse.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
I love the Godfather. So
yeah.
good.
So, I mean, Tabitha fled the marriage. So
she fled the marriage because her life was threatened by Angela.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, she threatened to kill her. In fact, the night all this happened, Tabitha actually ran out of the house and hid on the property till dark. And then she ended up going to a gas station and never went back. So whatever happened as far as the threat, I think it was bad enough to where...
So you're saying when the mom threatened her?
When Angela threatened Tabitha, who is George's wife and the mother of his son, whatever happened, it was bad enough to where she fled the house and hid on the property until dark and then went to a gas station and never went back. And she did sign over custody of her son to George. So to me, for a mother to do that, it seems like you would have to be really, really threatened, because it doesn't seem like there was a disconnect with Tabitha and her son.
That's horrible.
So, yeah. And like
That's
they said,
pure meanness.
They said on the day of the arrest, there was an obsession with custody. So it fits, with all the forged documents and all that.
I'm telling you, it comes back to Kindergarten Cop with that mom on there. She was obsessed with that little kid. Remember, she was like, she always thought he was sick. She'd by himself. He was sick. He didn't feel good. Da-da-da-da-da. Remember that?
I don't.
Oh, come on. You ain't seen that movie?
Like, not since 92.
Dude, I watched it in 93 probably.
All right. We're going to have a movie viewing so I can finally know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So Hannah told Jake and Angela both that the father of her baby was Charlie Gilly, the new baby. And in spite of that, Jake still wanted to have his name on the birth certificate. And he also told Hannah, don't tell Charlie this baby's his because I want you to move to Alaska with me.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
Yep.
I don't know. It's weird.
It is very weird.
I mean, why are you going to take, I mean, if it wasn't his kid and it was somebody else's, then that dad should have a hand in helping raise the kid.
Yeah. Again, it just seems like an obsession with Jake and Hannah. Like Jake had an obsession with her, and then the whole family had an obsession with custody of these kids.
Yeah.
Hannah never stood a chance, unfortunately. Bless her heart.
Yeah. Crazy.
These people are crazy.
So the special agent said that Hannah made very clear to Jake leading up to the murders that they were not getting back together.
Yeah, because Hannah had made people very aware of what she said was abuse, physical and mental, at the hands of Jake, and that the Wagners were just incredibly controlling. So she probably knew this is the hot mess express.
Yeah.
Between Jake and the family. And
well, didn't Tabitha's mom reach out to Hannah?
She did.
Yeah.
And that is one of the messages that they found on that laptop, that it belonged to Jake. He was the owner or the purchaser of it, but they had good reason to believe it was mainly Angela's. She was the one that used it. Now, I didn't know until watching this today. I had assumed that Jake hacked Hannah's Facebook Messenger. But during the hearing, he said it was actually the mother of Tabitha, who was Georgia's ex-wife. It was messages between Hannah Rhoden and Tabitha's mother, where Tabitha's mom was telling her, do not let them do this to you. Fight for your kid. And that's when Hannah said, I'm not signing anything. They'll have to kill me first. And that was screenshotted on that computer that Angela used.
Wow.
And that was made in, I believe, like December 14th of 2000. That would have been 2015.
Why do you keep that? I mean, I understand I don't understand you hacking somebody else's stuff and getting it, but like reading it, but why do you keep that?
I think it goes back to that obsession. I think it goes back to stalking and this need to know everything. And I don't know. I mean, maybe it's one of those deals where every time they read that screenshot, they got madder. Yeah. And it justified what they were planning to do. Who knows?
Yeah.
But they had a lot of stuff saved.
Yeah. Then leave it so police can find it.
Yeah. Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it seems to me that a lot of times digital evidence is what is getting people these days, because people watch Forensic Files and the First 48 and CSI shows. So it's kind of like people are getting a little wise to things they can do to minimize their impact at a crime scene, I guess, with DNA, although there's always stuff left. It just seems like the main stuff, and we're seeing that in Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell. I think a lot of those that case especially, is going to be 90% digital.
Yeah. Well, that's what Nate said about Tammy's death.
Right.
That they had so much digital evidence that they may not need to know the cause of death.
Mm-hmm. That's
Golly.
right. So, yeah.
Man. So Jake attempted to get Hannah to talk to an attorney about custody.
Yeah.
And Ohio is like our state. There's no real laws for the birth father. Hannah was not interested in seeing an attorney.
Which kind of makes me think that the custody stuff, the papers that were forged, because Ohio is a state where the biological dad, I guess, just out of the gate doesn't have any rights to the kid. I guess with the breakups, it seems to me like it was just their guarantee that these girls couldn't run off and not let them see their kids, even though obviously we know Hannah gave Jake Sophia the day before she was murdered.
Yeah.
So there was visitation there, but it goes back to that control.
Yeah.
I think it's just a huge control issue. The custody declaration documents, they were actually printed off of a Texas probate website, not Ohio.
Dude, that's...
So the suppressor.
Yep.
Why did they think that there was a suppressor used?
They concluded that a suppressor had been used in the murders due to the fact that at one location, 3 victims were shot and killed while thought to be asleep. Mm-hmm. So that would explain why nobody woke up and tried to fight.
Yeah, and so we know that at Chris Sr.'s house, I think the speculation is that at least he was awake. and there was a bit of a unexpected confrontation just based on the bullet holes, the one in his forearm, and just seemed like maybe a chaotic scene. They had shot through a door and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at Dana Rhoden's and Frankie's place, at those two residences, there's multiple people sleeping. And like I said, we watched that YouTube video. It's very quiet.
Yeah.
If I'm in like deep REM dream and sleep, I don't think, that I would have woken up. I mean, there have been times where there's like huge storms and my grandma will say, "Did you hear that thunder at like 3 a.m.?" And I'm, nope.
Dude, I sleep with a fan, so.
Everybody in the South sleeps with a fan.
I'm going to tell you, I've slept with fans since I was like 3.
Same. I can't sleep if I don't have a fan. When I travel, I have a travel fan, and I have to have it hitting my face.
You ain't lying.
Boy, when you wake up and you slept with your mouth open, though,
yeah,
like you got a droplet water in your mouth.
Yeah, but when the power goes out, though, like you wake up instantly.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's like an alarm clock.
Oh, yeah.
Your mom always hooks me up at the beach.
Yes, my mom has everything.
Get the fan. Yeah.
So how many minutes are we in, Fruit Loop?
We're a little over an hour.
Yeah.
So we may need to stop.
Yeah,
here.
I think right here is a good place to stop because we still have a good bit of evidence to cover. And I think probably we might do a little sweet tea session after Letitia's hearing this week. Yeah, I think we definitely should update that. The Rhoden case, I think we're kind of getting, maybe one more episode and we'll have the basics down.
Yep.
So, we're just going to stay on all these cases. I think, little things are popping up here and there. So we'll just keep an eye out. We know that Jake's trial is in August of this year.
Yeah.
I think that'll go off, really. It's been almost 5 years since the murders. The Rhodens understandably want to get this process started.
Yeah. I don't blame them at all.
Been a very long time. So,
yeah. Yep.
So, yeah. And we were talking about, we are definitely going to stop by Gannon's grave because it's maybe 10 minutes off the road on the way to my house at the beach.
Yep.
So we're going to do that probably in a few weeks. Stop by there. We may go live while we're there just so, everybody can feel like they can pay their respects and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so we're working on some new stuff. We're pretty close to getting our new logo out there.
Yep.
I'm really excited. I hope you guys like it. I think it's definitely more us.
Yeah.
Personality wise. So we got some fun stuff coming up.
Yep.
So anything else, Fruity Loopy?
I don't think so. I think that's it.
Was that it?
Yeah, I think that's it. We just got those court dates coming up,
yep.
And we'll be anxious to see if Letitia's how that goes.
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm gonna live tweet it. So if you want to follow us on Twitter the day of that hearing, you said 8:30 in the morning, which is that Mountain Time?
Yeah,
probably.
I think so.
So I guess that's 2 hours. So it'll be like 10:30 Eastern.
Yep.
I'll live tweet that hearing if some of you guys are at work and can't watch or whatever and just need to read it instead of listen. So look for that.
Yeah. Guys, thanks for reaching out. We've enjoyed interacting with you.
There's so many comments. It's insane. We like split them in half and try to respond to everybody. And if we don't, it's nothing personal.
And throwing out some shows and stuff. Like, that's really cool.
Yes.
We'll check those out.
Check out The Night Stalker if you don't have a weak stomach. It's terrifying and insightful and
Dude, it's funny. Like, you're watching that, and I'm like over here watching The Curse of Oak Island. Like, they're hunting treasure. Like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm on I do this, though. I go on a kick where it's all true crime for like 3 weeks, and everybody in the house is like, really? More murder? And then I'll get on to something else, But for right now, these true crimes, just like real people, it's just so insane that we share the world with people like that.
Yeah, like my playlist, I watch like Mystery at Blind Frog Ranch. Like, these are all documentaries. They're like hunting like stuff in the ground, gold rush whitewater. I love that show. See, like, that's what I watch.
Yeah, you showed me like somebody that dove in rivers to find.
Yeah, they're hunting gold. Like, I'm going painting for gold. I got a friend got some land. We're gonna go metal detecting.
Are there gold in those hills?
There is gold in those hills.
You gonna get on the Oregon Trail?
Yeah, but you die of dysentery.
Yep.
I don't know if any of y'all played that game, but that's what you always died of.
Yeah, never made it past Independence, Missouri.
Yeah, you can actually you can play that game now. I think there's an app.
You can. No,
Yeah.
you can go online too, and there's just like the original version. Still can't make it past Independence. Died of dysentery.
Yep. Hoopty died of dysentery.
Your oxen have drowned.
Yep. Oh, man.
Do you remember like shooting the little animals
Oh,
like for
yeah.
food, and then
Yeah.
you would have like way too much buffalo meat? And
Yep.
Yeah, I always spent all my money at the store before we left.
Yeah, and then you had the big floppy disk.
Yes.
You remember the big floppy? You had to go get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like, did you always start your people out eating where they were full and
Oh,
fed?
yeah.
And then like by the time you hit North Carolina, it's like bare bones.
Yeah, they're like skinny. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, we could do this all day.
Yep. Sorry, guys.
All right.
Our ADD podcast tonight was
Off the charts.
Yeah. Yep,
You guys
sorry.
might feel like you need ADD medication after listening to us.
Yeah, and we did have a lady who said, "I would love to be in your podcast studio," and
So you can fight the cat
Yeah.
and see my kids poking their head in every 5 minutes and
Yeah.
me doing sign language of get out of here.
yeah,
Yeah. So when we fix this studio up super nice, we would love to have guests. That would be so fun.
Come on in. Yeah.
There was a show years ago before we go. It was this kid, I think he was maybe 18, and he did this TV show from his parents' basement, but he got like big stars to come. He got like
I remember
huge stars to come to his house, and like his mom, that it would be like Snoop Dogg walking in the house, and this dude's mom's like making sure his cowlick's laid down.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny. Anyway,
I thought you were about to say Wayne's World. Like I was waiting on that one.
it
'cause
was
in
kind
the
of like
basement.
that. It was just he wasn't so rock and roll.
Yeah.
Anyways,
That's funny.
all
All right,
right.
guys. Well, have a good evening, and we will see you maybe Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see you Sunday. We'll probably just see you for a little sweet tea episode in between.
Yep. All right. Good night.